Billionaire Tom Brand, who is always immersed in his work, is not distracted from his business even before a parachute jump. David, his son from the first marriage, helps the father run the business. Tom landed right on the roof of the building he built. Staff and journalists greeted him with rapturous applause. In a month, the official opening ceremony is due to take place, and this skyscraper will be recognized as the tallest in America. During the day, Tom spends all his time at work, while his wife Laura prepares for the birthday of their daughter Rebecca. Laura tries to call Tom, but he can't be distracted from the meeting and asks his deputy Ian Cox to take the call. The investors convince Tom, the president of the company, to sell the building, but he has no intention of doing so because he wants his name to go down in history. David informed Ian that the building in Chicago was 60 feet taller, but the competitors were hiding it carefully so that no one would know of their triumph before time. Ian told David to keep quiet about it for the time being. The father gave David a special gift. Tom returned home as always very late. Laura was indignant when she realized that her husband had forgotten their daughter's birthday. Laura reminded Tom to buy a gift for Rebecca. The family went to a charity dinner attended by some of the most influential people in town, including the mayor. The next day Rebecca told her father that she wanted a cat as a birthday present. Tom does not like the idea, because he does not like cats. Later he asked his colleagues for advice on what to give the child for his birthday. None of the options suited him. Madison, Tom's ex-wife, along with her daughter Nicole, came to congratulate Rebecca. Madison later told Laura that the day she divorced Tom was the happiest day of her life. Madison advised Laura to think about it too, since Tom was busy with work all the time and didn't devote any time to the family. Meanwhile, David convinces the father that he should get Rebecca a cat, since she asks for it every year. Tom decided to take the son's advice after all and drove his fancy car to the nearest pet store. There were a lot of cats there, and it made Tom feel tense. The salesman Felix Perkins seemed like a strange person. He told Tom that people don't choose cats, but cats choose people. The pet Felix suggested, according to him, had already used up 7 lives. The news reported that the Chicago building was taller than the New York building. This came as an unpleasant surprise to Tom. After a quick bite of the cat, the man left. The holiday had already begun, and Tom as usual was late. The first thing he decided to do was to visit the office. Since the cat was meowing in the car, Tom had to take the pet with him. He met with Ian right on the roof of the building. Ian offered a solution to their problem, but Tom wouldn't listen and told the assistant that he was fired. Suddenly lightning struck the antenna. Tom almost fell, but managed to get a grip on the structure. He asked Ian for help, but he was in no hurry to do so. Tom fell with the cat carrier, but they were both lucky because they ended up on one of the floors. Tom began to be resuscitated, except that he himself was watching from the sidelines. At some point Tom was horrified to realize that his consciousness had moved into the cat. At first Tom thought it was a nightmare. He heard the doctor tell Laura that her husband was in a coma. Tom tried to tell the wife that he was with them right now, but all Laura heard was a meow. Ian pretended to be worried about his boss too, but David didn't have much faith in his sincerity. Mr. Perkins was in the hospital too. After waiting for everyone to leave for the room, Felix told Tom that he was a cat charmer. Felix is the only one who hears and understands him. And if the doctors can't bring Tom back to life, he'll be in the cat's body forever. Laura and Rebecca brought the new pet home, unaware of who it really is. Tom immediately ran to his office room to write a note to his wife and daughter. However, it was impossible to do so when he had paws instead of hands. Tom also tried to turn on his tablet, but failed. To prove to the wife that he was her husband, Tom brought his driver's license under their bedroom door. But Laura and the daughter decided that the cat just wanted to play. They didn't let him into the room after all. Tom went back to his office room, where he tried to open his liquor cabinet. Finally he succeeded. Tom knocked one of the bottles off the shelf and after several attempts managed to pour the whiskey into a bowl. The rumbling kept Laura awake. Meanwhile, Tom, pretty drunk, made a pogrom and fell asleep. The next morning Laura woke him up to feed him. But Tom was not going to eat cat food. Longing for her husband, sad Laura took the cat in her arms and said she hoped for the best. Soon Rebecca woke up, who was delighted with the pet. During this time, David overhears Ian talking to the investors about selling the building. David realizes that he must not let this happen. All day long Tom meowed and wouldn't leave Laura's side, who didn't understand what the pet wanted. There was no way he could convey to Laura who he really was. Soon David came to review the father's documentation and try to find a solution to the problem. Also visiting was Madison and her dogs, who upon seeing the cat, lunged at him. The dogs chased Tom all over the house while Madison tried to support her son. Eventually Tom got help from Rebecca, who made Nicole get the dogs out of here. After hearing his ex-wife tell Laura to get over her loss and move on with her life, Tom decided to use her purse instead of her toilet. Seeing this, Madison became enraged, but Tom managed to get away from her. His inscription on the floor of the tangle threads went unnoticed. The next morning, Laura saw that the cat had torn up the newspapers and was sitting on a clipping advertising Felix Perkins' pet store. David visited his father in the hospital and said he had figured out how they could beat Chicago. However, it will be difficult for David to do it alone. The guy was surprised to see Ian here. He only said he was worried about his boss, and hinted that the company was waiting for change. David presented his ideas to the investors, but not everyone was prepared to spend huge sums of money to build a few more floors. Laura invited Felix into the house, hoping he could help the cat. Felix asked Laura and Rebecca to leave him alone with the cat. The woman was surprised, but complied with the request. From the outside it looked as if the man was really talking to the cat. Felix advised Tom to behave himself and get used to his new life, for it was possible that he might remain the cat forever. Tom was absolutely unhappy with that, but Felix reminded him that his family needed love and support now more than ever. Tom had no choice but to accept his cat life. It was very difficult for him to eat cat's food, but he got over himself. Tom also played with Rebecca and obediently tolerated when she bathed him and dressed him up in bows. In addition, he had to go to the toilet in the cat tray. Tom became alarmed when his wife received a phone call from one Josh. He had stolen the car keys from Lara's bag. She chased him all over the house, emotionally saying that the cat reminded her of her husband. They were both stubborn and selfish. Tom had no choice but to drop the keys. However, Laura had no idea that the cat had followed her and sneaked into her car. David was shocked when he found out that Ian was selling the company. But he didn't seem to have any remorse at all. Laura came to Josh, who turned out to be a real estate agent. That's how Tom found out that his wife wanted to buy a house and leave him, but now she realized she needed him. Laura was worried when she received a call from Dr. Cole, who was treating Tom. Later, barely holding back tears, she told the daughter that her father was still asleep. The doctors don't know if he will ever wake up. In the evening, Rebecca watched videos from the family archives and cried. Tom decided to cheer her up, and he succeeded. When Laura saw this, she smiled sincerely. Tom regrets that he has been a bad father to his daughter. Soon Rebecca is visited by the arrogant Nicole, who acts very nasty. Noticing that Nicole was making an offensive post about Rebecca on social media, Tom knocked the smartphone out of her hands. Rebecca realized that Nicole had sent out the post to half the class and threw her phone down the toilet, saying that they were not friends. Laura and Rebecca increasingly notice that their cat is acting like a human. They are very homesick for Tom and do not know how to cope with their grief. Laura visits her husband again at the hospital. The official opening ceremony of his building is coming up, but Laura is not going to go there without him. Later, David gave his stepmother the bad news, telling her that Ian had put the building up for sale. David didn't intend to leave it like that and took the rest of the documents from the father's office room, unaware that the cat had broken into the box. Once in his office, Tom eavesdropped on a conversation between Ian and the investor who intended to withhold a document from David stating that in case of contingency, Tom would give the vote to him. Ian tossed the document into the shredder. After waiting for everyone to leave, Tom tried to get it out, but it was problematic to do so with his paws. Then Tom toppled the layout of the building. The sounds attracted the attention of David, who saw scraps of the document on the floor. He immediately called the mother, who kept some of his father's documents, including the company charter. In the meantime, Ian convinces the doctor to tell Tom's family that there is no chance of his recovery. Tom, meanwhile, had returned home. He really wanted to ask his wife's forgiveness for everything. The next day Ian came to their house, saying that Tom would not be able to recover. Rebecca heard this. Ian continued to insist on his point, when suddenly the cat attacked him. Laura let Ian know that she had no intention of taking her husband off life support. The woman was unaware that the daughter, who was going to school, had taken the cat with her. Arriving at the office, Ian was shocked to learn that David had called an unscheduled meeting without his knowledge. While Rebecca was reading about reincarnation of cats on the way to school, Ian told David that he was nobody here now. Rebecca went to Mr. Perkins and told him that she thought the cat was her daddy. Now Tom understands cat language, and the other cats have begun to convince him to stay, because cat life is so much better than human life. At this time, Tom went into cardiac arrest in the hospital. Shortly thereafter, Laura received a call. David was thrown out of the office with his belongings. Felix warned the girl that her father's time was running out. The whole family gathered at Tom's bedside. The doctor gave them the bad news. Although Tom was resuscitated, he had no brain activity. Rebecca, who had brought the cat into the hospital room, tried to convince the mother that the pet was the father. Laura thought the daughter was having a nervous breakdown. When everyone left, David told his unconscious father that he had lost their company and couldn't live with it. He intends to make the first and last jump off that building. Taking a pass from the father's jacket, David went to the roof while the doctor persuaded Laura to sign a consent to take her husband off life support. Tom could not prevent this, continuing to run after the son. In the evening there was the ceremony to officially open the building, at which Ian spoke. Laura and her daughter came to say goodbye to Tom, who was caught at that moment. The man wanted to throw the cat in the trash, but Felix rescued the poor animal. He let Tom into ventilation to enter the building. Thanks to him, the guards saw David on the rooftop surveillance cameras. The guards tried to stop him, but he jumped, the backpack given by his father on his back. Tom followed him. It turned out that the father's gift was a parachute. The cat fell, at which point Tom woke up. David landed outside the building to great applause. Soon he received a call from Laura, crying with happiness, saying that his father was awake. Ian was walking down the street at that moment and was very angry. Felix called out to him, but he didn't stop and was hit by a car, waking up as a cat. Soon the recovered Tom and his daughter came to Mr. Perkins' store to choose a pet. Felix offered them the same cat that had used up 8 lives and really wants to live the last one in a loving family.